This is a very Right. So we will discuss on the acute asthmatic attack and wilderness anaphylaxis protocol. This is a very important topic for the wilderness first aider and above. So the prognosis of cardiac arrest between the wilderness setting is poor, as we discussed previously in the topic cardiac arrest. Anaphylaxis is one of the non-reversible causes, and we need to understand that intramuscular adrenaline is the primary treatment. However, the access for commercialized adrenaline delivery devices in our country is limited, and the normal urban first aid training does not endorse the pre-hospital intramuscular adrenaline administration, especially by the non-healthcare first aid providers. So what is actually anaphylaxis? Anaphylaxis is an acute, potentially life-threatening response to an allergen that progressed to involve multiple organ systems. So it is not a new disease, but it has been depicted since 2640 before Christ, in which that you can see a hieroglyph show that Paris means dying after a war stint. As for today, 2 to 5% of the US population has experienced anaphylaxis. In between 1999 to 2010, about 2,458 infected deaths occurred. This represents 0.1% of all emergency department visits and constitutes for about 1% of all hospital admissions. So anaphylaxis can result in anaphylactic shock, and if it is less untreated, then it can progress to systemic organ failure. So you need to understand that while it has the symptoms of allergy like hives, itching, the severe form would be the presence of shortness of breath, and this may be associated with the sounds of wheezing. But please bear in mind that if the things associated with the swelling of your airway, patient may have stridor as well. But wheezing is the most common presentation for a severe form of anaphylaxis. And of course, if you are able to check for the blood pressure, patient may have low blood pressure to indicate anaphylactic shock. Pale skin color, and also altered mental status may follow after periods of hypertension and inadequate blood flow to the brain. So now let's look at the allergy. So basically, allergy is an abnormal or heightened immune response against an allergen. It may show symptoms at various parts of your body. So for example, that you can have redness and itchiness of the eye. You can have the hives or this irregular shape swelling on your body that is raised and red in color, and patient may have non-stop sneezing. Allergens is an environmental substance that trigger an abnormal or heightened immune response in susceptible individuals. Common allergens include pet like cat, pollens, and peanut. What about asthma? Asthma is basically an abnormal bronchial constrictions and inflammation arising from exposure to an inciting allergens, infections, extreme of temperatures, or physical exertions. So it is mainly the constrictions of the airway. Right, another term that you need to understand is angioedema. So this is referring to subcutaneous or submucosal swelling and inflammation arising from exposure to an allergens or deficiency of anti-inflammatory inhibitors. So the patient will typically have the swelling of your surrounding eyes or lips, or the tongue becomes swollen. So you need to understand that in the wilderness, we treat angioedema as anaphylaxis because it has the potential to cause airway obstructions. So while it is maybe due to deficiency of anti-inflammatory inhibitors, it's quite not possible to determine in the wilderness. So if you see these conditions, do not hesitate to administer IM adrenaline. Right, let's go to antigens. This is just a nice thing to know. It is basically a substance or agent that incites an immune response with antibody productions. So antigen may be environmental, as in allergens, bacteria, viruses, or intrinsic to the body, as in autoimmune diseases. So the hypersensitivity reactions can be divided into type 1, type 2, type 3, and type 4. So the examples of type 1 is actually your anaphylaxis, type 2 is blood transfusion, type 3 is serum sickness, and type 4 is contact dermatitis or poison ivy. You do not need to know in details for the level. This is just a nice to know thing because the immediate management is just the same for all conditions. So in the wilderness setting, the access to standard medical care may be limited or delayed. In order to increase survival rates, the Wilderness Medical Society has published a legal practice guideline in 2010, and again emphasizing it in 2014 to support the concept of non-medical professionals whose duties include providing first aid or emergency medical care in the field, also be trained to administer epinephrine for anaphylaxis. The anaphylaxis in the wilderness setting occur in about 0.01 to 0.03% of students in outdoor education course, and the incidence appears to be increasing in recent days. This probably due to the rise in the prevalence of food allergies. And over 20% of the anaphylaxis cases in the nose and outward-bound database were first-time reactions in individuals without a known history of allergy or need to carry the on EpiPen. So the most common cause of anaphylaxis is still from the Hymenoptera or the insect stings, followed by the peanuts, other fruits, and plant or pollen or roses. The anaphylactic fatalities or death occur mainly due to respiratory and cardiovascular collapse. As for the respiratory, it may cause the angioedema and bronchospasm, leading to airway obstruction and ventilatory failure. In terms of cardiovascular, the anaphylaxis causes sudden and massive increase in capillary permeability, causing hypertension and shock. So 55% of intravascular fluid may extravasate within 10 minutes of allergen exposure, and this will lead to decreased venous return and cardiovascular collapse. So our objective at WAMS Malaysia is actually to support the National Wilderness Anaphylaxis Protocol. The reason is to certify wilderness first aider to treat anaphylaxis in the wilderness setting. This is to endorse and empower through appropriate training non-healthcare provider to administer adrenaline using the ampoule or vial and syringe method, or do yourself adrenaline injection pen in case that commercialized adrenaline delivery devices is not available. This is in line with the Wilderness Medicine Education Collaborative Council suggestion, in which the student need to recognize LD and anaphylaxis, sign and symptom of critical organ impairment, identifying the indication for adrenaline injection and other supportive medications, observation, and evacuation for definitive care. So the step involved for certification of IM adrenaline injection by WAMS Malaysia is through 4 steps. So number 1 is the theory sessions, number 2 is demonstration by the facilitators, number 3 is the hands-on practical sessions, and finally it will follow with feedback session and training completion. So only those who are well trained will be given additional line in your certificate to say that you are able to give adrenaline injection by IM method. So the choices of adrenaline delivery devices should be based on the cost considerations, availability, operator training, and also safety for both patient and first aider. So whatever technique that we use, I would say that giving adrenaline using the commercialized devices is the superior form, but the problem is that it is not widely available and very expensive, and hence we need to go to other best available options that we have. Hence, throughout our course, we will teach the participant to use the ampoule or vial and syringe method to prepare the adrenaline for IM injection. So during our courses, we may use the chicken thigh or the corner skin, and this will actually able to simulate the subcutaneous tissue level and muscular layer of human thigh. So when the participant inject the things, it feels like injecting into a normal human. And recently, we also create this DIY IM adrenaline injection training kit that we can actually put it at the right position for the patient to administer. So just to highlight you some of the videos. So the first video is by using the EpiPen. And the second video is by injecting using the DIY method. Right, let's go to the management of anaphylaxis. The number one is like what we already teach you, is to assess the scene safety. Next is to remove the inciting agent if possible and do your primary evaluation for patients. And the information needed is to support the airway, breathing, and also the circulations. So you should place the patient in a supine position with the lower extremities elevated, unless there is prominent upper airway swelling, prompting the patient to remain upright and often leaning forward. So if the patient is vomiting, placement of the patient semi-recumbent with lower extremities elevated might be preferable. If the patient is pregnant, put them on their left side. So the dosage that we recommend for the layperson responder to inject is 0.3 milligram or 0.3 ml by using the syringe. The reason why we put up this dose is to avoid potential complication in case that the responder accidentally put an extra dosage of medications. If the first injection does not cause relief to the patient, then you can repeat another dose of injection. So there are currently multiple epinephrine delivery devices in the world, especially the EpiPen and also the LVQ. But again, the stock are very limited in Malaysia. So for those who are trained with us and planning to go to the expedition, you may also come and see our expedition medic to provide wilderness and infectious management kit, but you need to pay for it. So inside we will put the syringe pre-filled with 1 in 1000 0.5 ml adrenaline, injection needles, tablet prednisolone, and also the tablet prednisone. So if you notice that the dose that is being prepared by the doctors is 0.5 ml, but for those who are preparing the dose by themselves, the one that we teach you is 0.3. So I hope that it did not confuse you. So other supplemental treatment include the H1 antihistamines like the Benadryl or cetirizine or Piriton and loratadine. Next is the H2 antihistamine, the famotidine and cimetidine. If there is a difficulty in breathing, you may use the salbutamol MDI, and of course the steroid like prednisone and dexamethasone. For patients who are taking a beta blocker, we may give the glucagon, but the problem is we rarely bring to the wilderness setting, and the medication is only available in hospital. So as a conclusion, we advocate the use of the National Wilderness Emergency Protocol to treat wilderness first aider, which may include empowering and endorsing non-medical personnel to administer intramuscular adrenaline injection to treat potentially fatal anaphylaxis cases in the wilderness setting. Right, let's go to the acute asthmatic attack. So the common symptoms include the wheezing. So this is basically a whistling sound when breathing. Cough, especially at night or early morning, shortness of breath, especially during activity or cold weather, chest tightness, but for mild cases, patients still able to speak in full sentences. But severe symptoms require immediate treatments. This include difficulty in breathing even at rest, unable to speak in full sentences. You may notice that patient must pause to breathe while talking to you. In a smaller patient, like children or those who are very thin, you may see the rapid chest movement with visible use of neck and rib muscles. Patient may have bluish lips or fingertips. In a very bad case of asthma, patient is very breathless, but there is no breath sound when you auscultate. So this is called the silent chest and is a very dangerous sign. Patient may show signs of fatigue and confusions, which finally will cause a loss of consciousness and cardiac arrest. So the initial treatment is that to stay calm and sit the patient upright. Do not lay them down. So help them to use the inhaler or the rescuer MDI. This is usually the blue cap one. It has the salbutamol or the Ventolin. So take one puff for every 30 to 60 seconds, and you may take up to 10 puffs. If the spacer is available, use it for better effectiveness and deliver all 10 puffs via the MDI. Monitor the response. If symptoms improve, continue observations and do not leave the patient alone. So this is a different type of inhaler that is available for you to use. Usually in the acute attack, you use the blue one that has the Ventolin. You may also add the Atrovan that usually has the green cap. And the last picture that you see is actually the Budesonide inhaler. It is actually a controller medication. In a severe asthmatic attack, you may add on this MDI as well. So let us see how to use the MDI inhaler.
To use your MDI rescue devices, first shake your MDI multiple times. Then remove the blue cap and make sure that your MDI is in straight position with top of the canister facing upward. Put the mouthpiece into your mouth and make sure you seal it fully. After breathing normally, press the canister, then take a deep breath and hold it for 10 seconds before you breath normally. If you still feel breathless, take another dose. If your attack is moderate to severe, you can use up to 10 MDI before reassessment. To use it.
Right, this is a spacer that usually will deliver the MDI more effectively. But if you do not have it, you can actually improvise by using either a cup or using a plastic bottle. But if you use the improvise, make sure that when you cut the end of the bottle, make sure you put some tape to avoid the part injuring the patient's area. So this video shows how you give the victim MDI salbutamol using the improvised air chamber. So cut hidung, cut satu, dua, tiga, empat, lima, enam, tujuh, lapan, sembilan, 10. Dan kita akan diam untuk dia. Di dalam. So additional things is oxygen. So steroid, the one that we teach you is oral prednisolone. The dose is similar to what we give for patients with anaphylaxis. Put the patient in the upright sitting position or in tripod positions. You can give the antihistamines like Piriton, loratadine, or cetirizine. So let's say that if you do not have the MDI salbutamol, you can actually bring a tablet medication or tablet bronchodilator, which is the salbutamol amplifiling. But the problem with this medication, the systemic side effects more compared to giving the medication using the MDI salbutamol. And if you have the IM adrenaline with you, you can also give it to the patients. Another thing is that coffee may have some bronchodilatory effect. If you do not have something to give to the patient in the wilderness, the next best thing that you can consider is to heat up some fire, put the patient near the fire to make sure that they are warm, and give them warm coffee, preferably without the sugar. And teach them on how to use the breathing exercises. So the problem with asthmatic patients is that they are having difficulty to expirate their breathing. So teach them to take a breath in and prolong the expiration phase, right? And finally, if the patient is very lethargic, unwell, and almost collapsed, or already collapsed, you can do the chest compression to help to expel the trapped air from the alveoli. The criteria for evacuation or transfer to hospital include the sign of severe asthmatic attack, no improvement after 10 puffs of inhaler, or the inhaler is unavailable or ineffective, and patient having recurrent attack within a short period. During assessment, if patient has difficulty speaking, which is direction weakness or confusion, you need to evacuate the patient as well. And if the victim is children, or it is the first time asthmatic attack, then you also need to bring the patient to the hospital. With that, thank you for listening.